Hello, everybody. Welcome to Between Two Devs. We are streaming right now live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. I'm your host, Talia Kohan. I'm on the DevRel team here at Postman, and we're here every other Thursday. And just a reminder, there's no live stream in 2 weeks because of the holidays, but we will see you back here January 8th for a fresh set of demos. And don't forget, throughout the live stream today, if you have a question, be sure to write it in the chat so that we can answer them. We also want your feedback on these features. These are things that we coordinate with our product and engineering teams to demo for you guys, and we want your feedback. We're a very developer-first company. We listen to everything that you guys are saying, and this is your direct line to communicate with the Postman team. So if you have feedback, comments, questions, please let us know in the chat. All right, let's get into it. So today we have two really great demos. The first one is from Noah, who is the head of the Postman API network. So let's bring up Noah. Hello, welcome.
Hey, Talia, thanks for having me on the show. Good to go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, please. And tell us a little bit about what you're going to be demoing before.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like to have the visual to go through it. Go with it. You can see my screen okay?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Hello, folks. As Talia said, my name is Noah Schwartz. I'm the head of product here at Postman for the API network. For those who are not familiar with this product as part of Postman, the API, our mission with the API network is to be the world's source of truth for public APIs. So that means a couple of different things to different people. Most importantly for developers, that means having one place to find APIs, discover use cases, learn how to use them, test APIs. Maybe you're evaluating which API you want to use to build a product, or you're making a build versus buy decision. And then after all that, you integrate with an API. That's why we have APIs. You build on top of them. Today, integration often happens with the assistance of a coding agent. That's going to be a big part, or most of my demo today is showing how you can use the API network to provide context to coding agents to build integrations with APIs. That feature is called Postman Code, and we'll be seeing a lot of Postman Code today. And then the other persona that the network serves are companies. APIs are really products. Those products are built by companies. And the reason they build those products is to serve developers and give value to developers to build on top of them. Today, there's over 100,000 APIs on our network. They're from thousands of different companies like those you see on the screen. And that's it. I'm done marketing. And now from here on out, we're going to be calling APIs. We're going to be generating some code. And if I don't forget, and if we have time, we will also look at some code. So one of the things I do with my wife, one of the ways we spend time together, is we watch shows. And it's always like comical to me how hard it is to find things to watch. I feel like there's never been more content out there, and that makes it harder to find things. And I'm kind of sick of her sending me these like Instagram links from people who are telling everyone else what to watch. So I thought there has to be an API for this. There's got to be an API out there we could use. Turns out there's this great company called Watch Mode, and they have APIs to allow you to look up shows, look up releases, movies from streaming services. You can filter by genre. You can sort by popularity, all the sorts of things you'd expect such an API to be able to do. Just to give you kind of a sense of what that looks like, I have a collection here. I'm assuming folks who are viewing are familiar with Postman collections. So there's nothing new here. So what I'm really introducing you to here is just the API. So here we can see the streaming sources from Watch Mode, Netflix, Hulu, Max. These are things that I think we've heard of. We can look at upcoming releases. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, I have no idea what that is. But we could see shows that are coming out soon. And then also just one thing I want to call out, because it's going to be relevant later, these saved responses that I have here. So these are kind of like use cases for the APIs is how I think about them. So because our coding agent is going to be looking at what we have here in Postman, and it's going to learn how to use these APIs. So these use cases are really valuable. So this saved response here about how to see releases in the next 3 months, we're going to see where things like that come into play in a moment. So we have this company, Watch Mode. They have these APIs. We have them on Postman. They're on the network. That's all really good. We see how they work. But now how do I generate code against these APIs? Because I have Claude Code open here. That's the coding agent I'll be using today is Claude Code. But this is where I type prompts, And then Postman is where I have the APIs. So how do I take what I have in Postman and give it to Cloud Code? The answer, of course, these days to this question, I gave it away earlier. I gave it away just a moment ago. I said context. It's MCP. So I'm going to go over to Postman's. We also have an MCP client for those who aren't familiar. Just like you can test REST APIs, GraphQL, gRPC, etc. You can also test MCP servers.
Hey, Noah, can you zoom in a tiny bit? It's a little small. Perfect. Yep, great.
All right.
Thank you.
So a few weeks ago, we launched a new tool set on the official Postman MCP server called Code. And we sort of affectionately, we call that Postman Code. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to load the capabilities for this MCP server. I'm going to zoom out one because I sort of can't see anything. I'm going to give this a minute, see what it's doing. Let's try to reconnect to that. That's okay. This isn't working. I can talk around it. So I'll debug that after. But the basic idea with the Postman Code MCP server is that, let's try it one more time to connect. That's okay. The basic idea with the Postman Code MCP server, it's a very small set of handcrafted tools that guide the coding agent in getting context from Postman. And there's really two tools that do most of the heavy lifting. I'm going to show you them in action in a minute. The first tool that does most of the heavy lifting is it's called get coding instructions. And what that does is it asks Postman for, well, I should say the tool tells the coding agent how to use Postman, the Postman MCP server, to get context. So that tool returns things like use the search tool, call tools in this order. But most importantly for developers, we want the code that's generated in your coding agents to be idiomatic, to follow conventions of your code base. We want it to look like code that you would have written. And so what that tool really does is it instructs the coding agent and the LLM how to use Postman to get context and then turn that context into code. We're going to see this in a minute. The other really important tool I want to call out, this is sort of an obvious one if you ever use an MCP server, is search. You can see that over here, actually, just from what I had loaded before. Being able to search Postman and find requests, like a coding agent can't do anything if it can't find stuff on Postman. So search is a big deal. And then when it finds something on Postman that it wants to use, it needs all these other tools to get collections, get requests, get responses. And so we'll see some of that in action. So unfortunately, we couldn't see it in the client. But the takeaway that at this point that everyone should have is we have Noah is trying to build an application to using the watch mode API. We have the APIs on Postman, and we have this MCP server that our coding agent can use to pull context from Postman and then build an application with it. So it's a very big prompt here. I'm going to start running this, and then I'm going to walk you through what it's doing.
And Noah, you said,
go ahead.
just to highlight one thing, you said you're using your Postman collections as context?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to see that live in a moment, assuming Claude doesn't have a similar issue with our MCP server. No, Claude's okay, so we're in good shape.
Cool. And can you zoom in just a little bit on this too?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Is this good? Or is that too much, maybe? How's that?
I think that's better. Yeah.
All right, cool. A lot of stuff here. I'm not going to read most of this. For those of you who have, tried to meticulously write prompts for applications you've generated, you've probably seen madness like this. I split the requirements into two sections here for Cloud Code. I'm not going to go through all these technical requirements. It's like pretty basic stuff. Use TypeScript, we proxy API calls to the server, stuff like that. But the two really important words, like probably the two most important words in this prompt are these two: use Postman. And the reason why these really matter, if you've ever used an agent, a coding agent, or just an LLM directly to generate code, there's a lot of ways that can be done. LLMs have seen lots of code. They've seen maybe almost as much code as they've seen English. It's one of the things that they're best at doing. So surely the LLM, in this case, it's Opus 4.5, surely it's seen examples of using the watch mode API. I don't want it to use that context. And the reason why I don't want it to use that context is because in our experience, an LLM will often hallucinate an API surface when you tell it, like if you tell the LLM, hey, I want to build an application that allows me to search for upcoming releases, it's going to make up its own mind on what that API call will look like. It might get it right from the training data, but often what happens is it hallucinates, right? That's the word for that, hallucination. The other place that LLMs can get context or coding agents can get context is web search. Web search is great. I'm sure many viewers use web search all the time as they're using coding agents or just agents in general, like ChatGPT and Claude. The problem that I've seen or we've seen with using web search for code generation is that it's now going to a variety of different websites. It's combining context from a lot of different places. But the way one developer is using an API may be different from the way another developer is using an API. One may be using one person's code snippet, maybe not type safe, someone else's code snippet may be type safe and they may get the types wrong. There may be multiple versions of the API. And this is another really good way for the LLM to hallucinate and combine those things incorrectly, or even worse, like just not really get an understanding of the API. So these two words are saying use context, use Postman to get all the context you need. Then we have some product requirements here. We'll see that in the generated application later. The one I really want to call out here because it's important is I want to see upcoming releases. I want to see shows that are coming out soon because that's most interesting to me. If like a new season's coming out of something, maybe it means it's a good show. So now let's scroll down and see what the LLM, see what Cloud Code is doing so far. So it called our coding instruction tool. It's a shame I couldn't show that to you in the client. But once again, what that's really telling the LLM is use standard TypeScript conventions, just get context from Postman, and then it's also telling the LLM how to use these subsequent tools. So we see here, search for the network. It did another search. It's being very thorough. It found this collection it really likes. Now it's getting a map of the collection. So it's seeing what are all the requests, what are all the folders in the collection. That's really important because then it gets the capabilities of the collection, what's provided by the collection. And you can see here some of those things that we were just talking about, upcoming releases, streaming services, genres, listing all titles. And then now what the LLM is doing is it's looking up the context for each of these requests. And that's really just a small piece of JSON. And I'm actually going to show you what that looks like in a few moments. And if we keep going down, let's see how far we are. Cool. So it's at the point where it's actually building the application. Somewhere in here, we have this magic sentence I always love to see. I have all of the API context I need. It got it from Postman. So we're going to take a little bit of a break on this screen. I'm going to show you something back in Postman again, and then we'll come back and see how Cloud Code is doing.
Noah, before you continue, there is a question in the chat. Why not use API docs and Cloud Code?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm so glad someone asked that. So that is a great way to do it. And if you didn't want to use Postman for some reason, that would be the way I recommend you do it. The limiting factor with doing that is that you are now putting yourself back in the driver's seat of providing the context to Cloud Code in that case. And maybe that's something you can do every single time. That's okay if you want to do that. I will also say that I have often seen developer portals be out of date. The limitation with the developer portal is that it is just text. And so you're depending on a lot of that text was written predating AI. So you're really depending on how good of a job that human did writing that and how much sense it's going to make to an LLM. And an LLM will do a good job in most cases, but the benefit of using Postman, we saw that before, is that we know these API calls work because we tested them in the client. There's use cases, examples of how to use those API calls. We also saw that in the client. And if you're integrating with multiple APIs, you don't have to think about how to provide all that context to the LLM. You give the LLM the tools to search for that context itself. So it searches Postman. You could easily imagine that this application could have been more sophisticated, where I could be like maintaining a list of shows I want to watch and saving that somewhere to a database. Could be using any variety of SaaS providers for DBs. Maybe I would want it to send links to my wife and like text her, oh, do you think we should watch this later? So now I'm pulling in Twilio. And so my application becomes more complicated. I'm getting context from more APIs. The good news is those APIs I just mentioned, companies like Twilio, Supabase, et cetera, they're on the network. So you don't have to go and look up their dev docs. You don't have to read anything. You can let the LLM do it for you. And because you know the APIs work on Postman in our client, you can have very high confidence that the code that is generated will also work. And if that doesn't do it for whoever asked that great question, please follow up and challenge me to give a better answer.
Thank you.
So I'm on this page here called Use Postman. We already saw me say these words, use Postman, and in a full sentence is use Postman for up-to-date API definitions for your coding agents. So I have the watch mode API collection up here, which I had up before. This is a markdown version of it. So we think of this as like the human-friendly version of the context that's available on Postman. So here there's minimal context. It's just the API calls. Reduce, we start getting schemas for the response bodies. These types are really useful. We're going to end up with type-safe JavaScript. It's going to be real TypeScript. There won't be any usage anywhere in the code base. And then full is actually example responses. And this is really helpful because we're going to see in the application that it can actually show posters for the shows we'll be looking at. And it's able to know that because it sees examples of it here from this full set of context. You could download this. You could check it into your code base. Yeah, go ahead.
This is from those example responses from the UI that we saw in Postman?
Yeah, that's right. So it's working off the same collection, and then we're seeing like a human version of the context. So if a human wanted to read and be able to grok what was going to the LLM, you could see it here. You can copy it. You could download it. There's plenty of ways to copy and paste things and give it to an agent. We are, of course, going the MCP server route, as we saw just a moment ago.
Great.
So I'm going to pop back over here. This finished in record time. This usually takes about 8 minutes. Maybe I've been babbling or talking for too long. But before I open the application, I do want to show one thing. I'll zoom in here as well. Let's see what it looks like this time. Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff here about the APIs it's using. You can kind of look through this code. This looks like pretty boilerplate JavaScript code for calling APIs and presenting a server to a web page. The one thing I really want to call out are these few lines here at the top. This is like, think of this as like a light pointer back to Postman. And the reason why this pointer is here, and because we're not going to have time to show it today, maybe I'll show it in a future session if I get invited back. But this light pointer allows your coding agent in the future to see where it got the context from. So if these APIs change in any way, it could see like the genesis of the code, right? The context that it had previously, and you can provide a new context, and it could do a migration for you. So if watch mode's on V1 of their API, if they went to a V2, it would be very easy to go to the LLM and say, hey, upgrade to V2, because the LLM would know everything about how it set up the application originally for V1. And without further ado, we're going to open this. Cool. This is interesting. I've never seen it default to some streaming services before. So we'll pick Netflix and Hulu. I'm a funny guy. I like comedy. So we'll run a search here. We'll see what we get back. Give this a moment. It's a few API calls that are actually happening in the back end because it's also getting those poster URLs.
I just want to also reiterate what you said before. I think context is like the most important thing when it comes to sending requests and getting information back from LLMs. So like the fact that this uses specific context that you're actually using in your APIs is incredible.
Yeah. So, okay, there's a lot of results here. That's why I took a minute. Blood pressure will go back down. So it's 2,448 results from Netflix and Hulu that are comedy. Most of these are pretty good. This looks correct to me. This is a very funny show. We all love The Simpsons. I didn't know Wednesday was a comedy. My kids watch that. I'm not sure I should allow them to do that. Family Guy is very funny. But the real feature for me is upcoming releases. So if I go over here, I can see what's coming out soon. None of this really stands out to me. Maybe I'd watch that with my son. He used to love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Fallout Season 2. Loved Fallout Season 1. I think I should go rewatch that. Maybe I'll replay all the video games, and I could watch Season 2 when it comes out next week. That's it for my demo. The takeaway, I think, is if you're building an application and you're using public APIs, I would say use Postman. We have a link that I think Talia will be sharing out. And thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thanks, Noah. We're going to share that link here. All right. And thank you, Noah. We're going to bring up the next presenter. All right. Welcome, Vedanta.
Hi, Talia.
Hello. Vedanta is on the API client team. Vedanta, what are you going to demo for us today?
I'll be demoing the file system feature today. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah. Amazing demo, Noah. Thank you for those movie recommendations. And I haven't seen Fallout. I'll check that out. I have a very another interesting API for you guys today. I've been working on this API to list all my favorite places in Bangalore. I live in Bangalore. I go out to like eat and go to various cafes. I try them out. I rate them. I created this sort of mini API for myself, and today we'll be working on this. So like I have this API. This is the documentation. Now I can share this with Talia, and she will be able to see this API and like work with this. But there is this problem that okay, now I wanted to add one more endpoint to this API, and this endpoint I have it coded up, like I have this code ready for this endpoint, and I come to Postman to test this endpoint, but I don't want to just add some endpoint that is not really battle tested and prod ready into my document reference collection for this API. Otherwise everybody will start seeing it. My consumers might think, oh, there is a new endpoint, and that's not actually there in all my environments. So the problem that I'm talking about is that uh, your API contract is inside your Postman app, and your code is inside your Git repo. And these are two separate sources where your code is living somewhere else and your contract is living somewhere else. And one thing that a developer hates most is updating the documentation. So if I have to go back and update the API contract in Postman, that's really painful. So what if my API contract call can also live inside my file system? If that was possible, then in my diff you would see that I will have a change where I have added this endpoint, and I create one GitHub pull request, and that has everything. So let's see how we can achieve that with Postman. So we have this new files sidebar. You can go to this. Now, what I'm doing is I can work with my local code base inside Postman with this. So I'll open my folder. Okay.
I feel like this is like a mic drop moment. Like everything is coming together in one place, your code and your APIs. This is what we've all been waiting for.
Yeah. So I've opened my code base for this API. So all my code I can see is already inside, like I can see all the files here. And what I'll do is I'll connect this workspace to this repo. So once I connect this repo, what has happened is, if you see here, I have been switched to my branch. It shows that I'm on the main branch. And what that means is whatever you see inside my local mode is residing on my file system. And what I mean by that is, if you see in my code, there is a Postman directory created, and everything that you were seeing on the Postman screen will actually reside in this. So I'll go back to my Postman app, and like it is saying that I have some collections on my cloud. So the API that I showed you, it's actually here. Let me pull that into the local view. So once I pull that API into my local view, I'll get this API here, and I'm on my local mode. And if you see this, this API is actually added inside my file system. So if I share the link to this workspace to Talia, she won't be able to see whatever I do on my file system right now. So I go ahead and add a request here, and I'll add a request to, like, I'm adding a post endpoint to this API to add some more places into this. So let me just quickly add some sample body to test this endpoint. Yeah. So as I showed you earlier, I had this code written for new endpoint for post, and I want to test this endpoint without publishing it for my consumers. So now I can just test this endpoint. It is working. Nice. A place got added. I can see that, yeah, it's working. It's adding the place to my database as well. So awesome. So I'm able to test it. And if I give this link to anyone, nobody will be able to see it yet. So it's everything is in my file system, and I will be able to version this with my file system itself. So what I mean by that is I can just go ahead and add these changes and in my commit. And if I now add a new endpoint here, it will basically show up in my diff here itself. So whenever you add an endpoint, it will show up in your diff. the thing that I was talking about earlier, it would be really great if I can raise one PR with my code changes and my API contract changes, where I don't have to go ahead and do the documentation update separately. So that's basically, yeah, like summarizing what we saw here in the demo is I basically opened my repo inside Postman. I connected my workspace to the repo, and I pulled the collections into local view. And everything that you saw in my local view was basically living inside my file system. So it's versioned with Git. So I can now commit it on Git, and all my code is, all my Postman entities are actually residing in my file system. So this solves the problem of having two separate sources, one like Postman for your entities and Git for your code.
This is incredible. Your code changes, your collection changes, everything lives in one place. And then you could ask, this is something that I do with this, is I'll tell Agent Mode, okay, I just made all these changes, update my documentation and my tests, and then Agent Mode will go in and update that for me. So I love that everything lives in one place. You don't have to change context. And like you said, Vedanta, no one likes writing docs. So this is great. All right, I think we are all out of time for today. That was a really great demo from both of our presenters. Thank you, Noah and Vedanta, so much. I am going to give everyone just another minute to ask any questions in the chat, give us feedback before we end the live stream. And I also just want to mention, if you don't see the ability to add local files to local files in your Postman workspace yet, we are still in beta. So just it's slowly being rolled out to everyone. So it's coming for everyone soon. It's not there for everyone yet. So we are still in beta. You will see it soon. We also just released the December product update. Let me post a QR code so that you guys can see that. It's right here. So this is the December product update to see what's new at Postman. And I don't see any more questions in the chat. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to see you in 4 weeks for a fresh set of demos. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And we will see you in